Okay, stop scrolling, because what just dropped in Washington is pure political chaos. 29 federal judges didn't just question Trump's defense, they torched it, overturning the ruling he was banking on and triggering a full-blown impeachment push that lawmakers say is now finalized. This isn't partisan noise. This is the judiciary itself stepping in and saying enough. Trump's legal shield just collapsed. His strategy just fell apart. And the power players in D.C. are treating this like the moment everything breaks wide open. If judges are demanding accountability, what happens next may change American democracy forever. And here's the part nobody's ready for.
The impeachment standoff is coming to a head today. The final debate before the first vote is happening tonight. CNN's Mani Raju is on Capitol Hill. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is at the White House. Let's start with Jeremy. So what are you learning about the legal strategy that the president's coming up with?
Well, look, Kate, the president's legal team has been preparing for weeks for this moment, for the House to send over those articles of impeachment and for that Senate trial to begin soon thereafter. We know that, of course, that the president has been frustrated by that delay because, of course, he is hoping for a vindication in this Senate trial, hoping that Senate Republicans stick together and provide him that vindication that he has been seeking.
Look, I want to start tonight by saying this as clearly as I can. What we're seeing right now is not normal. Presidents get criticized, presidents get investigated, presidents even get sued. But it is almost unheard of for 29 federal appellate judges to effectively walk into the same room, look at a ruling that protected a sitting president, and say together, no, we're throwing this out, start over. That is not politics as usual. That is the rule of law, finally standing up and saying to Donald Trump, you do not get to game this system forever. And that's what this moment is really about. It's not just another Trump headline. It's not just another scandal to shrug at while you scroll past. It's a collision between a president who has treated power like a personal shield and the basic architecture of American democracy, the courts, Congress, the Constitution itself, finally pushing back in a serious, coordinated way. When those institutions start moving in the same direction, someone in Trump's position should be very, very worried.
The president committed the highest crime against the Constitution by abusing his office, cheating in an election, inviting foreign interference for a purely personal gain, while jeopardizing our national security and the integrity of our elections. Now, the Constitution does not require President Trump have committed statutory crimes. After all, we in Congress are not criminal prosecutors. We do not prosecute crimes, we protect the Constitution.
Let's walk through what actually happened. On November 26th, 29 federal appellate judges voted to vacate a lower court ruling that had favored Trump. Vacate doesn't mean we disagree a little. It means that ruling is gone, wiped off the books. It no longer stands, and the case now gets a full, fresh look. That's a huge deal on its own. But add the scale, 29 judges, different circuits, different judicial philosophies, different presidents appointed them, and they still came to the same conclusion. Something about that pro-Trump ruling didn't pass the smell test. Why does that matter? Because Trump's entire legal survival strategy has never been about winning cleanly on the merits. It's been about delay, appeal, obstruct, throw enough motions into the gears that everything slows down and voters either get confused or stop caring. For a while, that worked. He got friendly rulings. He bought time. He turned court dates into political theater. But when 29 appellate judges collectively slam the brakes on that approach, they're not just commenting on a single case. They're sending a warning shot to every lower court. We're watching. And we're not going to rubber stamp this kind of special treatment anymore. Now, at the exact same time, something else is happening across the street from those courthouses. Congressman Al Green, who has been one of the most consistent voices calling for accountability, has announced he'll file new articles of impeachment before Christmas. And he's not doing it in a vacuum. He's explicitly pointing to that 29-judge decision as proof that this is no longer just about partisan politics. His argument is simple. If the judiciary itself is saying there's a problem with how Trump has been treated by the courts, then Congress has a duty to step in and do its job under the Constitution. And that's the key word here, duty. Members of Congress swear an oath to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump, not to a party, not to a base, not to a cable network. When Green says Trump has committed the highest crime against the Constitution by abusing his office, cheating in an election, inviting foreign interference, and undermining the integrity of our system, he's tying Trump's behavior to that oath. He's saying, if this doesn't trigger impeachment and removal, then what does? For years, Republicans and even some Democrats have been able to dodge that question by calling every attempt at accountability a witch hunt or a partisan stunt. But it's a lot harder to run that play when 29 federal judges, some conservative, some liberal, some appointed by Republicans, have effectively just raised their hands and said, we have a serious concern here. That takes this moment out of the realm of pure politics and back into the realm of law and duty, where it always should have been. Now, let's talk about where the American people are in all this, because that matters just as much as what's happening in courtrooms and on the House floor. Trump's disapproval rating is at 58%. That's not a blip. That's a majority of the country saying we're not okay with what this president is doing. And that number sits on top of everything else: the indictments, the convictions, the civil fraud judgments, the constant attacks on judges and prosecutors, the endless stream of disinformation. People are tired. They're not buying the "I'm the real victim" act anymore. For members of Congress, especially Republicans, that 58% figure changes the calculation. It gives them political cover. A senator in a swing state who might have been afraid to cross Trump when he was hovering around 45 or 46% approval now looks at 58% disapproval and sees something different. Voters back home who are open to or even demanding a real check on his power. They can go home and say, look, this isn't about me turning into a Democrat. This is about respecting the courts, respecting the rules, and respecting what a clear majority of Americans are telling us. And this is where the bigger pattern comes into focus. This 29-judge decision is not happening in isolation. It's sitting on top of the New York hush money conviction. It's sitting on top of the E. Jean Carroll defamation judgment. It's sitting on top of civil fraud rulings that say, in plain language, that Trump and his business empire lied about assets, misled banks, and treated basic financial rules like a joke. Case after case after case. Courts have looked at his conduct and said, no, this is not how this works. Trump has reacted the same way every time, by attacking the institution that dared to hold him to account. When a judge rules against him, they're biased or corrupt or a radical left Democrat, even if a Republican president appointed them. When the Justice Department prosecutes him, it's suddenly the deep state. When juries look at the evidence and say guilty or liable, he claims the whole thing was rigged. When the media reports the details, they become fake news and enemies of the people. What makes this moment different is that the pushback is now coming from inside the very system he's been trying to twist to his own purposes. 29 appellate judges are not a hashtag. They're not a pundit panel. They're not an opinion column. They're the people the Constitution empowers to interpret the law and check abuses of power. When they vacate a ruling that helped Trump, they're not just whispering that something's wrong. They're putting it in the record. That puts enormous pressure on Congress to stop pretending this is all just noise. The House doesn't get to hide behind the excuse that the courts will handle it, when the courts themselves have effectively said, we are handling it, and we're telling you there is a serious problem here. Impeachment is not a sideshow. It is the precise tool the Constitution gives Congress when a president abuses the office, undermines elections, or tries to place himself above the law. So let's be clear about the question on the table. It's not just, did Trump do something wrong? That ship sailed a long time ago. The question now is, will we let him keep doing it? Or will the system finally impose consequences? Because if the answer is no consequences, then we are telling every future president, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whoever, that they can treat the law as optional so long as they keep their party scared and their base angry. We would be rewriting the job description of the presidency in the worst possible way. And here's the thing that often gets lost in all the legal jargon and political spin. This isn't just about protecting some abstract document in the National Archives. It's about protecting you. It's about whether laws apply the same way to the powerful as they do to ordinary people. Think about it. If you lied on financial documents the way Trump's companies did, if you ignored court orders the way he has, if you tampered with witnesses or obstructed investigations, you would not be getting years of appeals and primetime TV rallies. You'd be getting charges, penalties, maybe jail time, fast. When the system bends over backward for someone like Trump, it's not just unfair in the moral sense, it's dangerous. It teaches everyone watching that the law is flexible if you're rich enough, famous enough, or ruthless enough. That corrodes trust in everything: courts, elections, police, government. People start asking, why should I follow the rules if the folks at the top don't have to? That's how democracies slide into something uglier, slower, and harder to reverse than any one scandal. The founders understood that risk. They didn't design the presidency to be a throne. They didn't design the courts to be decorations. They set up 3 branches of government for moments exactly like this one, moments when a president pushes past every norm, tests every limit, and dares the system to stop him. The judiciary can't send in the National Guard. The courts can't impeach, but they can do what they just did: send a loud, unmistakable message that a line has been crossed and that they are no longer willing to legitimize it. When Congress responds to that by moving toward impeachment, that's not overreach. That's checks and balances functioning the way they're supposed to. And when the public responds with majority disapproval, that's not mob rule. That's democracy saying loudly and clearly, we see what's happening and we don't accept it. Now, I'm not naive. This is not going to be easy. Trump will not suddenly become reflective and respectful because 29 judges embarrassed him. He's going to come out swinging. He'll escalate the attacks on the judiciary. He'll demand loyalty from Republicans. He'll frame every attempt at accountability as an attack on his supporters rather than a response to his own choices. He will try to turn this into a tribal, us versus them brawl, because that's the only fight he knows how to wage. The challenge for the rest of us, for Congress, for the courts, for the media, for ordinary citizens, is not to take that bait. The story here is not Trump is mad. The story is that the system he's been abusing has finally, collectively, started to push back in a coordinated way. In courtrooms, on the House floor, in the polling data. The question is whether that pushback will hold or whether fear, cynicism, and fatigue will win out again. Over the next weeks and months, we're going to see some people in power make very stark choices. Republican lawmakers will have to decide whether they are defenders of the Constitution or bodyguards for Donald Trump's ego. Judges will have to decide whether they stand with the growing consensus that his legal strategies have crossed the line, or whether they want to be the outliers who give him one more lifeline. Voters will have to decide whether they treat this as just another episode in a never-ending drama, or as a turning point that demands their attention. Here's the hopeful part, and it's important to say this out loud. The fact that 29 judges acted, that impeachment articles are being drawn up, that a clear majority of Americans disapprove, that all tells us the system is not dead. It's battered, it's stressed, it's been abused, but it's not gone. The machinery of accountability still works when people inside it choose to use it. That matters, because if this moment turns into real accountability, whether that's removal from office, serious legal consequences, or both, it won't just change Donald Trump's story. It will change the story every future president has to tell themselves before they consider abusing their power. It will send a message forward in time. There are limits, and if you cross them, the branches of government will not all roll over. And if, on the other hand, we watch 29 judges raise the alarm, watch Congress talk about impeachment, watch the public say enough, and then let it all fade away, then we will have answered the question in the worst possible way. We'll have said the Constitution looks great on paper, but doesn't actually mean much when a determined, shameless president decides he's bigger than the rules. We'll have told future leaders that there is no line, only rhetoric. So when you hear about this 29-judge decision, when you see the impeachment headlines, don't let anyone tell you it's just politics. Don't let anyone reduce it to team sports. At the heart of it is a simple, old-fashioned idea that in a democracy, the law is supposed to be stronger than one man's will. That presidents are public servants, not kings. That courts are guardians of the Constitution, not extras in somebody's campaign ad. That idea is being tested right now, in real time. And whether you're thrilled to see Trump on the ropes or exhausted by the whole saga, the outcome matters. For every future election, for every future president, and for every citizen who ever wonders whether their voice and their vote still matter. This moment will end up in history books one way or another. It'll either be remembered as the point where the rule of law finally caught up with a president who treated it like a joke, or as the point where we saw the danger clearly and decided once again to look away. The 29 judges have done their part. The question now is whether Congress and the rest of us will do ours.